Hi, everyone. Ready to go? Okay.
Yep.
So as Suzanne mentioned, we're going to provide an overview of some ongoing work in the ECP Broadening Participation Initiative. First of all, our motivation for this work is recognizing that the workforce investments in our scientific computing community have been essential in providing the foundation for all the work that our community has been doing across the years. This has been recognized by a number of important studies and publications. And as we move forward, we recognize that we need to, of course, continue to reinvest in our workforce so that we can continue to grow and thrive. We recognize that now we as a community face challenges in workforce development and retention. And we often point to a workforce subcommittee report done a few years ago that points out the need for continuing to reinvest in our workforce. So as motivated by these circumstances, in the fall of 2021, a multi-lab group convened and decided to begin brainstorming on some actions that we could take as a community, recognizing that, of course, many activities already have been going along very successfully for many years, both based in our individual labs and in the broader high-performance computing community. So our particular lens of focus was to think about how could we, as a multi-lab community, address issues, especially as these relate to the computing sciences and high-performance computing. So the task force convened a number of times, shared information, did brainstorming, and identified vision and missions. And we'll talk about the activities now that we're pursuing in order to try to help progress our community to help ensure that we have a thriving workforce now and going into the future. We're enthused to partner with not only our collaborators at our labs and in collaborating universities, but also with Marianne Leung, who many of you already know is a leader in our community for advancing workforce diversity, equity, and inclusion. Marianne spoke about some of this work at an ASCAC meeting back in the summer of 2021. I encourage any of you who haven't heard her speak about this, you can take a look and listen to the recording and look at the slides that she presented there. We will make these slides available through our website, and all of the items here with red underlines are hyperlinks. So those will be easy resources for follow-up. This is a one-slide snapshot that provides an overview of the 3 thrusts of work that are now ongoing by the members of the community, focusing on broadening participation. And so now I'll pivot to Suzanne, who will speak about work in our HPC Workforce Development and Retention Action Group. And followed by that, Paige Kinsley will speak about work in Intro to HPC, accessible introductory material. And then finally, Dan Martin and Marianne Leung will speak about the Sustainable Research Pathways Program.
Thank you, Lois. So the HPC Workforce and Development Group meets monthly, and here are the people generally that have met with us and helped get us into formation. We're sort of a community scaffolding. We want to develop, the means for people to be able to join this committee and contribute to workforce development and retention. So thank you, everybody that's pictured on this slide. Our approach is to we established this group. We lead a quarterly webinar series of which you're participating in now. If you want to see the page for that, there's a QR code that will give you to the main page that shows all the webinars that have been and in the future will be. We don't have the next one on there yet, but we will soon. These are open to the public, generally attended by a few hundred people. Often they have topics that range from specific to computing workforce development things and maybe more general topics like mentoring. You can see there that we're developing a web page, which we can use to catalog all of our best practices and methodologies, and that can be reached there at the link that's given. So next slide. So there's a still of what our web page looks like. Right now, we're just starting to develop this, and it's starting to take off, but it is open to the public now, and people can go in and look through it. Next slide. Oh, okay, so we are on the web page here, and yeah, that would have gone to the link. So we've talked a little bit about the impact of our group, just to summarize what we've done already. So in these regular meetings, sometimes we talk about what webinars and what content we're going to have for the website, but we also talk about actions that we could take. And in 2022, one of the things that we noticed was that all of the laboratory websites listed underrepresented minorities in one category. So we had a speaker, Damian Risson, who was very passionate about trying to separate these categories out, at least in the public data, women and people, African Americans and so forth, so that it would be easier to understand, how the causes of underrepresentation were playing out at the different places. And he gave that talk several places, including in our webinar series. And we ended up, actually, if you look at it this year, I don't know if it's specifically because of us, because lots of people heard talks by Damon and others, but now the National Laboratories hiring data is now differentiated, and it's no longer one lump sum of underrepresented minorities. So that's sort of an idea of why we're an action group. In terms of the webinars, we've had now over 672 people attend from 10 national labs and 38 universities and 22 businesses, or different businesses like NVIDIA or AMD. So you can see there are some listings of the different topics that we've tackled. And if you want to go see those webinars, the recordings and slides are there at that QR code in our archive. Okay, I guess I'll pass it to Paige now to talk about our intro to HPC.
Thank you, Suzanne. So hi, everyone. My name is Paige Kinsley. I'm at Argonne National Labs as part of the leadership computing facility here. And I am the lead on our thrust that is more focused on introducing high performance computing earlier in the careers of students. Very often, at least in the DOE space, a lot of the targeted training that we have is usually more targeted towards advanced computing folks. This includes the Argonne at PESC, which is our 2-week boot camp that we run, introducing folks to extreme scale computing, and then also the computational science graduate fellowship that is run by the DOE. Very often to get into these programs, you need some level of experience in HPC, but to get to that level of experience, you need to actually have access to information around HPC in the first place. Based around our understanding of the pipeline for how people are introduced to HPC, we've learned this in listening sessions from postdocs and also faculty at MSIs. HPC is not necessarily introduced very early in careers, especially at the undergraduate level, in part because high performance computing is a specific tool that sometimes only needs to be applied sort of deeper into research needs. However, the DOE as a computing complex has expertise and capabilities to potentially help address that gap at the undergraduate level for introducing high performance computing at an earlier stage. Next slide. To do this, we are currently working in this two-pronged approach in the attempt to sort of meet students and faculty where they are and provide more opportunities for pathways into high-performance computing as a field. The first one is we are running in August a 1-week boot camp that is introducing fundamentals of high-performance computing concepts using energy justice projects and a project-based curriculum that's surrounded by energy justice. The goal for this is we're introducing a huge variety. We have 60 students that are coming in that are both undergraduates, a few masters, and also a few PhD students who have no background in high performance computing, but an interest in energy justice and social justice topics. And we're going to work with them for a week on these projects, introducing fundamental concepts of HPC, and they're going to be trained by national lab staff, along with folks that we're collaborating with Sustainable Horizons Institute, with Marianne Leung. The goal for this is to create these projects and this curriculum that can be used across the national labs. The folks that are working on this right now are from Argonne, Oak Ridge, and Berkeley, and hopefully make these materials more broadly available for community use to sort of have a more introductory material for these students. Alongside the work with direct to students, we're also working on building more capacity at a faculty level and within curricula at different universities. So through this, we're the target audience is minority serving institution faculty within the computing and computational sciences, not necessarily just HPC or CS. And the plan right now is to work on building curriculum modules that can be introduced into curricula that are already established for these courses. And this would be in partnership working between faculty and national lab staff to sort of build these modules to be able to introduce them and support learning in HPC. This summer, like I said, we're running this Intro to HPC pilot bootcamp in August at Berkeley, and also this summer working with an MSI faculty member to build out the sustainability for the faculty curriculum development program.
Thanks, Paige.
Yep, and I'll pass it over to Marianne.
Thanks, Paige. I will walk through some of the Sustainable Research Pathways program with you, along with Dan Martin, and we're delighted to be, partnering with ECP on the Intro to HPC, as Paige mentioned, and also Sustainable Research Pathways. So the SRP program started quite a while ago, back in 2015 at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, as a program designed to try to help expand the workforce at the lab. And we started out initially focusing on building relationships that are centered around research collaborations. And so we recruited faculty that were working with underrepresented groups at minority serving institutions and lots of other places. Run a workshop to kind of basically do a matching process with lab staff so that they could go to the lab with their students and have a really great summer experience. We've got some good examples of things that have happened. This program is also designed to kind of supplement the diversity and equity and inclusion programs at the lab. And since we first started it, we've added a student track so students can apply on their own. So a couple of the stories we can share. The first one is a professor at San Diego State University who you can see has kind of started out in the program. He's brought students to the lab over the years. Some are the same. Angel has gone for 3 years, and he's collaborated with David Trebotix, and they have done some really impactful work because they started out where Chris and his team were using the tool, and then now they've been embedded into the project. I probably should let Dan talk about this team because he, it's within his group. I don't know if you want to add anything about, kind of the technical work and the expansion of how they started and they've become really integral to the ECP project.
Basically, you did a great job of describing that. Basically, they came out as summer students and just came back year after year, and they've over the years they've developed a pretty durable relationship, and he's now part of the project year round. And they're a large part of meeting critical path milestones and things like that in their project now. So because of this summer thing, they were able to basically create a new research pathway with San Diego State and with us, and now they're an integral part of our effort. And these are people who wouldn't have even known about LBL otherwise.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks, Dan. So I'll just share a little story about Alexander Ballo, who was an undergraduate student at Youngstown State University, which is, you know, a small state school in the middle of the country, in a very economically challenged area, kind of where a lot of companies are folding up. And she's a first-generation scholar, and she's someone from a very rural community who I spoke with her, and she's like, first of all, never would have even imagined going to work at a national lab, much less seeing some of the successes that she has. But she came initially with her faculty mentor, which is Alina Lazar, who's also done great things. She's now applying for a chaired, CS chaired position as well. But anyway, so she came to the lab, worked with John Wu and his group. And then we run another program called Broader Engagement. And so she came and participated in that and gave a talk in front of the whole SIAM community, brave young undergraduate to do that. And at that conference, she met Anne Almgren, who was her guided affinity group leader. And then they talked and decided they wanted to work together the following summer. So she returned again as to work at the lab. And then she presented her research the following year at another broader engagement program that we run. And we were really excited for her because as she applied for graduate school, and she was awarded the DOE CSGF fellowship, which is really exciting. And again, it's something that this young student would have never imagined for herself. So very happy about that. So we recently, were asked to expand the program through ECP, and it's really been a great experience to be able to kind of scale it up and figure out how to do the same thing and try to get some similar results working with 10 different labs. And so that started, we're on our second cohort of that. So 22, we started the program in 21, and then we had our first cohort in 22, and then this summer we have another cohort that are at the lab as well. So we could go on to the next slide. And this is kind of the results of the 2 summers, and this is, I think, where I hand it over to Dan to kind of talk through how we've expanded the program even further.
Yeah, so up to 2021, like Marianne said, it was just a Berkeley lab. And then last year in 2022, we extended it to ECP, and that turned out to be a really neat way to broaden through all the labs, because ECP has this amazing sort of multi-lab structure. And so we managed ECP basically stepped up and gave us some funding. So we wrote through ECP, we were able to fund another 61 participants spread over a number of labs, basically all the labs who tried to participate. And it resulted in a sort of a really substantial expansion of this effort. And also made it possible. It was also possible because we were able to do this virtually. So we have a lot of virtual meetings and just throughout the summer. Like there's a kickoff meeting, and then a midsummer meeting, then a wrap up meeting where all the people from different labs get together and meet and sort of form this multi-lab cohort. And then this past year we did this. For this summer, the ECP we were able to get the ECP to continue for the last year of ECP. So ECP was able to contribute funding for roughly the same number of students. And then we expanded, at the same time, we expanded the Berkeley effort to all the CRLC labs. So the 7 different national labs, which meant that we had this incredibly robust and large matching meeting in January where we made matches for a whole bunch of people. And in the end, we wound up having 189 faculty and student participants in this summer's meetings. 120 of them eventually funded through ECP, either through direct funding or through projects. And then 69, we were actually able to get the labs to come up with 69 funding for 69 participants as well, which was pretty amazing. And so there's these 169 people or 189 people are distributed over 10 labs. So it's really definitely grown and become quite successful. And we have lots of success stories of like the one that Marianne was saying with David and David Trebitich and Chris Paulini, where we know people have come to labs and discovered that this is a fun career, and this is something they were excited about doing and have decided to pursue STEM careers as a result. I think the next slide is back to you, right?
Goes back to Lois.
So this is just a concluding slide to to begin the further dialogue with all of you as attendees at this session. So we recognize that the work that the ECP Broadening Participation Initiative is undertaking now is a good start, but there's so much more that we as a community need to do and can do. And so we want to continually ask ourselves to engage in our community to figure out how to move forward. So with that in mind, we will transition to the next phase of our session here. Marianne, do you want to explain our breakout groups?
Yes, thank you. So the next phase of this this kind of session is to really focus on community input. And so we want to hear from all you. So we, shared with you a little bit about what this ECP initiative has been doing and the different focuses. But really, what we want to do, as Lois said, is there's a lot more work to do. And so we would love to hear from all of you and have you brainstorm about what are the problems, what are some good solutions, and what do we really need to try to address in the future. So the goals, as shown here, we're just, we want everyone to be able to kind of share their experiences and insights, and then build an understanding based on the community's understanding of the most important gaps and challenges and potential ways to advance things here. So there are links, so you can go to a document and just individually if you want to respond, but through these breakout groups, we're going to ask you to go ahead and have some discussions and whatnot. So the idea is to share your insights and build this understanding. There's 3 questions that we're going to ask you to work on. The first one is, what are the top 3 workforce challenges or impediments that you see in your organizations? So what are the things you're wrangling with and trying to figure out how to do, or the problems that you're trying to address? And then secondly, what are the strategies or activities that are currently helping to address those challenges? So what's going on now, whether it's something that you're doing or something that you see happening elsewhere, and should these be continued? And then lastly, what other kind of new promising strategies are you aware of, or can you think of, just imagine, to help address these workforce challenges for the future, and why would these strategies be helpful and address maybe things that we haven't been able to address. There's the link there for the individual input. So we have been, we're thankful to a number of community members who have agreed to be, help us with our discussions, kind of help coordinate these breakout rooms. They're listed here. Thank you to Sylvia Crivelli from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, and Chu Dubé at Argonne, William Godot at Oak Ridge, Paige Kinsley at Argonne, Dan at LBL, Mark Miller at Lawrence Livermore, and Suzanne from Oak Ridge, and last but not least, in the alphabet is Andy Salinger. So these are going to be our leaders, and we're going to help just facilitate the conversation. We will be asking for volunteers to help with the note taking, because each of the groups has their own template with 3 questions, and so we'd like you to kind of address those questions and then come back afterwards. We'll give you probably about 30-35 minutes in the breakout rooms, and then we'll come back and ask each group to report back, and we can have further discussion as a whole group. And I think that, so the next thing is I'm going to let Suzanne explain our breakout rooms. The way it's going to work is the leaders are going to be pre-assigned to rooms, but everyone else can just freely decide to go into a room. And we have some room names that will help you kind of decide where you might want to go. And we really strongly encourage you to stay, because I know a lot of times in these meetings, when it comes to the breakouts, people drop off. But as you can see, we only took a little bit of time to kind of talk at you. We want to just be very interactive, and we really want to hear your input and have you have the opportunity to talk with other people about these issues. So you can pick a room. We are going to try to ask you to help us with load balancing so that we don't have, we have somewhat of a equal distribution across the rooms. And if needed, Lois and I will go around the rooms and, try to help do that manually. But if you can kind of look at the rooms and then, assemble yourself that way. And please don't be shy about volunteering to help out with notes. We could use multiple note takers. So I'm going to stop talking and let Suzanne tell us about our wonderful names of our rooms.
So our names are based on the careers of stars. So we have a star forming region that is the career development phase of stars. And actually this picture from the James Webb Telescope is the cosmic cliffs, which is a great star forming region. You don't have to talk about early career in this. So these names are not associated, but these breakout rooms are associated with stellar careers. So the next one's main sequence stellar burning. That's the main lifetime of a star. That's its main building up career. Thermonuclear supernova are very bright, and they have a standard brightness, so we can measure the whole universe with them. They're driven by thermonuclear reactions. So this is sort of like a mentor. When you measure the universe, your mentor helps measure your universe. And then the gravity-driven supernovae, these are core collapse supernova. They make all of the heavier elements and a lot of the iron and carbon in our blood. So this is the really productive phase of our career if we're a star. So pick one of those rooms. I'm going to open the breakouts now. Hopefully you can pick one of those rooms. And if you, yes.
Sorry to interrupt real quick. There was a question asked, are the breakout room discussions recorded?
I do not think the breakouts are recorded.
No, we're going to stop recording now and not record during breakouts.
All right.
Do that. So I'm trying to stop the recording. There it is, stopped.